Hello, I'm Nari McDiarmid for Mining Journal and MiningNews.net, and it's great to be speaking again with Dr. Mike Jones, Managing Director of Impact Minerals. And Mike, since we last spoke, you've made quite a lot of progress at your flagship project, Lake Hope, a high-purity alumina project in Western Australia. But for anyone unfamiliar, what's special about this project?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Great to be here again. So the Lake Hope High Purity Alumina project is a relatively unique deposit located about 500 kilometres east of Perth, which is where I am. Great place to be in Western Australia for any mining project. And high purity alumina is a little known but a crucial mineral within the energy transition that we're going through. And without going into detail, its main uses are in things like LEDs, light emitting diodes, which are becoming prevalent across the world, covering buildings all over the place. And behind each LED is a small piece of sapphire, and that sapphire is actually made from high purity alumina. It's another form of the same mineral, and so as we replace incandescent light globes across the world, then LEDs are growing basically almost 20% per annum in terms of use. It's also used in a wide variety of other areas: medical ceramics, technologies, the semiconductor industry itself, and also in medical optics. So it's a fantastic place to be. So the unique thing about Lake Hope is that there's a set of minerals there that are formed by evaporation in the top 2 metres of a dry salt lake. So Western Australia, much of Australia is littered with these dry salt lakes, but these particular ones have a fairly unique set of minerals there formed by evaporation, and naturally they're incredibly fine-grained, mostly less than 1 micron in diameter. And so what that means is that we can dig up that material and take it off site, leaving a very low environmental footprint at the site, and then take that, as it turns out, likely to be quinana, where we'll be able to process it and turn it into HPA. So those natural advantages at surface, fine grain size, lead to us having a very low operating cost. And that's really the secret to this project, that we believe that we can be one of, if not the lowest cost producers of HPA globally. And in any business, that's a great place to be. So there we are, Lake Hope for you.
And in terms of narrowing down the specifics of Lake Hope, you've just announced a maiden resource for the project of 730,000 tonnes at 25.8% alumina. Can you put that into context?
Yes, certainly. Look, we are aiming to produce a benchmark production of about 10,000 tonnes per annum of HPA. That's that's the benchmark, if you like, for our industry. And the leaders in this field, Alpha HPA Limited, code A4N, have been phenomenally successful, and they're building a plant of 10,000 tonnes capacity right now. So, and that's 10,000 tonnes of high purity alumina, aluminium oxide. And so in that measured resource, we've got 100, sorry, what was the number? You know better than me. 170,000 tonnes, was it? No, 189,000 tonnes. There we go. There's enough in there for 10,000 tonnes per annum production, for sort of 15 to 20 years going forward. And that's just a small portion of the resource. Lake Hope has enough for a multi-decade mine and operation. So that's the significance of it. That's from a production perspective. The other significant thing about a measured resource is that under the JORC code, we can then convert that with further economic studies into a reserve. And once you've got a reserve, then people really take you seriously. There's something of value there that looks like it can be economically extracted and mined and sold. And so that's really what we're trying to do as part of the pre-feasibility study. We're aiming to try and get a reserve statement out at the same time. And that will then really underpin the economics underneath the JORC code, that we've got a serious project that looks like it's going to get up and running as we go forward over the next couple of years.
Now, Mike, you've also received almost $3 million in a federal grant. So what's that going to be used towards?
So that was a great feather in our cap, and really a fantastic validation of the project. And you should remember that we've only had Lake Hope for 18 months, and we're already coming to the end of the PFS and looking to roll straight into almost a DFS underneath this the project, which will come from this research and development grant. So that's tremendously accelerated, and so the funding will allow us to accelerate, in particular, the construction of a pilot plant. And that pilot plant will be the first step up in terms of scale of the disruptive process that we have developed based on the unique minerals that we've got at Lake Hope to produce high purity alumina. And so it's a three-way collaboration between ourselves, CPC Engineering, who have been doing the engineering studies for our 10,000 tonne per annum plant that we've designed as part of the PFS. And CPC Engineering have been involved because, in particular, they have skills in acid regeneration, development of acid processing technologies, and in particular, there's a lady there, Eugenia Fegan, who's actually built an HPA pilot plant before and has been heavily involved in the HPA industry. So fantastic people there. And then the third group is actually Edith Cowan University underneath Professor Amir Razamjou. And Amir has been bringing across from the water processing industry technologies to purify reagents and water and any liquids involved in a process plant into the mining industry. He's already got some patents for lithium and rubidium, and these things are amazing because there are two types. There are plastic membranes, which basically look like an extruded piece of string, and then secondly, ceramic membranes, and those are very good when you've got very acidic or very caustic conditions, and in terms of their reliability and their longevity. So it's brand new uses, but when you see this technology, they're very simple, they're very straightforward, and we believe that they're going to really help reduce the operating costs and simplify our entire process. And what we're aiming for is a thing called zero liquid discharge. So, which is basically no liquids leaving the plant, no wastewater, everything can be reprocessed or recirculated. So, and we think the membranes will be an incredible part of that. So the pilot plant will be the first scale up of that. We'll have to develop some new membranes, but Amir has students kind of ready to go, and he's got some amazing technology. So between the three of us, we believe that we're going to produce something very special in this pilot plant. And that's actually important for marketing, that our clients won't take us seriously until we've actually got a pilot plant and we can show people we can produce material, consistent quality, consistently.
In terms of the other steps in the path towards production, you touched on the PFS. How is the pre-feasibility study going?
So the simplest way to look at the PFS, I like to call it a jigsaw puzzle, because unlike a conventional deposit, say if I'd have found a gold mine, the hard thing's finding the gold mine. So dig a hole in the ground, build the plant next to it, and then you sell a concentrate or the doré. Fairly straightforward. With industrial minerals, and HPA is no different, finding a deposit's actually the easy part. You then got to actually then work out a process for it and then find customers for it. So the difficulty in the two businesses are actually inverted. So the pre-feasibility, I like to call it a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and there's four parts to that. There's the mine, and we've kind of recovered that. We've got the measured resource underway. We've got mining studies and mining schedules being put together now for the costings for the PFS. And we recently lodged our mining lease application. So that's set in motion negotiations with the Naju Aboriginal group, who are very pro-mining, and we'll pick those up again next year. And also the environmental surveys. We've already completed baseline surveys with no significant issues. So everything's going well at the mine. That's part one. Part two is the process plant. As I said, CPC Engineering, getting close now to finalising the preliminary design of our 10,000 tonne per annum plant. And we'll be waiting on capital expenditures and in particular operating expenditures from them over the next month or so when we get the final report. And then the third one is the test work, and we've just alluded to that with the grant, the pilot plant. We still have ongoing test work. We're producing 4N fairly regularly, and we're doing some novel things there, because one of the interesting byproducts from our whole process is potash, as it turns out. Potash from a brine has been a source of a lot of angst in Western Australia over the last few years. So I just want to emphasise that this is actually a byproduct. There's no potash in the lake. We mine the clay, we take HPA as the main product, and as a byproduct, we will end up creating high quality potash. So we've been doing a bit of extra test work on that to help with the pre-feasibility study. And then finally, marketing. That's the fourth piece of the puzzle. So we recently employed Joseph Casella. He comes to us from Tianqi Lithium, where he was commercial manager and was actually originally employed to help to actually look at an HPA business using various byproducts that they had, all too hard and difficult given the problems they were having with their plant here in Kwinana. So that whole thing was shelved. So that's a great feather in our cap there. And so he's putting together a very detailed marketing plan for the products that we might be able to produce and who are the main end users, et cetera, et cetera. And that'll come to fruition by the middle of next year to coincide with getting the pilot plant hopefully up and run, commissioned or on its way. And so the back end of next year will all be about getting customers on board as rapidly as we can. So look, bit of an overview. Those are the 4 pieces of the puzzle, and we can certainly look to a lot of news flow from that going forward.
Well, there is certainly a lot on the go, Mike. So what are the catalysts investors should be keeping an eye out for in the coming months?
So the big one, of course, is finishing the pre-feasibility study, which is be in the first quarter of next year. Still waiting on various reports from consultants and trying to get quotes out of mining contractors, as it turned out to be a lot more difficult than we anticipated. It's probably because it's quite a small job. We're only going to campaign mine. So we're going to be mining only for sort of 3 months of the year, stockpiling material and then transporting it off-site to Kwinana, hence the low environmental footprint. And so that's actually quite a small job. So a lot of these contractors, it's almost not worth getting out of bed for, as they say. But there's a big logistics job in terms of trucking material down to Kwinana. So we're waiting on things like that. We need to compile that. And the reason that's all important to compile that properly is that people should remember that Impact doesn't own the Lake Hope project yet. The completion of the pre-feasibility study, and assuming we elect to go forward from there, will trigger us being able to earn an 80% direct interest in the company that owns the lake and also all of the intellectual property around it. That company is called Player One Proprietary Limited. At that point, we will issue them 110, I think it is, 110 million shares in Impact, assuming that we go forward post PFS. So we need to make sure that all our ducks are in a row, the boxes are ticked, and all other idioms that you can use at the end of the PFS. So we can definitely look forward to that. There's a lot of news to come between now and then. One of the big things at the moment, and we'll probably talk about this later, on another talk, we have an IPO underway. It's not a spin out, but a private group is trying to take our Commonwealth project with our Lachlan Fold Belt copper, gold, silver assets and trying to get that listed by the end of the year. We also received some EIS funding from the WA government for drilling a copper target, and we're gearing up for a drill program on that at the end of the first quarter next year as well. So there'll be all of that to come as we head to Christmas. So
Lots happening. Mike, great to speak with you, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
right. Thanks very much.